Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us again today. We are so excited to be here with Jeana Feely, who is a Navy veteran, a Navy spouse, and an entrepreneur. And she is dealing in AI and technology. And I thought that would be so fun to talk about because, we discuss how military spouses are doing amazing things in all different sectors, but we have never really spoken to anybody about AI. Jeana, welcome.
Hi, Sue. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, and we have a mutual friend. So we've had a really good time catching up. And so I'm excited to just get into this because, everyone is talking about AI these days, and having a military spouse who runs a business for software development and AI is so cutting edge. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so my company is ALN Technology, and we develop custom AI-based software solutions for companies. It's right now we're very focused in semiconductor manufacturing and distribution in terms of our customer base, but what we do is applicable to every industry. And as we see continued developments in AI, it gets more and more exciting about the types of things that we're able to offer. So we started with a communication-based AI system focused around email. We also have a pricing product, there's a marketing product that's coming soon. And so as the technology develops, as the models develop and become more available, and as we get new customer use cases, it's really fun to see all the new applications, the ways that people and companies are implementing AI. It's just such an exciting time. But that's just a short synopsis of what the company does.
No, I think that's amazing. And how did you know to start your company? Was it something you did in the Navy?
So I was a nuclear engineer in the Navy for about 6 years until I got out. A nuke, that's what I did. And from there, I went directly into the semiconductor industry. And so I spent the last decade or so in semiconductors on the hardware side. But the hardware and software is really closely intertwined. And over the last 3 or 4 years, it's become really apparent to me in my work on the hardware that there's so much development happening on the software that even really impacts the hardware. If you look at hardware design and how semiconductors are designed, there's so much AI involved, even in the design process, in the manufacturing process, when you go to these manufacturing floors. And so I've been drawn to it for a long time. And there was a transition that happened about a year ago that really enabled me to take this leap and dive in and really explore what AI has to offer, educate myself and create this company and start making the software.
No, I love it because we hear every day about how you can either become a slave or the master of the AI, right? It's either you can let AI run you or you can learn to run AI. So I think this is really timely and it's amazing. I think we could talk about wonky things all day, but back to your highlight, I was reading that, and one thing that really struck me was I really love the story about how you hired a college student to help you out because you realize that you were getting busier. You couldn't do everything. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really explore. So, can you share a little bit more about the role that outsourcing has played in your personal and professional lives? Because I have to imagine that when you're starting a new business, actually, I know that when you're starting, things get busy and you have all these balls in the air. So, I think that was really intuitive of you to understand that you needed help.
So, full disclosure, I just got to a point where my husband was deployed. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I was pregnant with our third. I was, starting to run the company. And I just said, I can't, it's too much. It just became too much. And I needed help. And we were living at the time about a 10-minute drive from a local university. And it was actually one of my neighbors. And she said, she made the recommendation. She said, well, I bet you could find a college student. I was like, oh, that is such a great idea. And it genuinely, it not only changed that time in my life, but it changed how I viewed the way to prioritize, the way to really efficiently get things done, where I wanted to spend my time. And it was such a valuable learning experience for me, but outsourcing in general. So that was really the first step for me. And I had her do everything. I had her mail packages. I had her drive me to meetings sometimes when I had so much work to do and I had maybe a 40-minute commute. I said, Ashlyn, if you're watching this, you saved my life. I love you. You're amazing. And I would say, please, can you just drive me so I can work in the car with my hotspot, sending emails and finishing proposals and creating presentations. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what I can get done when I'm not distracted with things that genuinely don't matter, like driving or going to the post office or laundry, dishes, eh, being at the house for the HVAC guy. I mean,
Right.
things really basic things like that. So, and that has really spilled over into my company. I mean, starting a company, there's so many things to do. I am not a marketing expert. I'm not a PR expert. I know what I know and I have my skill set, but going out and finding the experts, the people that are so much smarter than me in specific areas to do the things that either I'm not very good at, I don't enjoy doing, or that
Right.
aren't adding value but need to be done. So those are sort of the categories, the way I break it down. But it's really changed my life. It's changed the way I am able to spend time with my kids and my family, the way that I'm able to run my business. Yeah, that was a really sort of pivotal educational moment in my life.
And you were kind of saying that outsourcing isn't just a strategy for you, it's a mindset. Can you expound upon that?
It is a mindset. So the process for me, I mean, when I first started, when I was going to hire Ashley and I said, okay, I need to figure out what this person is going to do. So I said, you know what, let me just see everything that I do in a day. And I made this list. And this was sort of an aha moment for me as well. I just kept writing and I just kept writing and I just kept writing. And it was like, oh my goodness, I am doing so many things. And so the mindset shift is really looking at, what are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that I love to do? And then understanding that not only do I not need to do it all, I probably shouldn't be doing it all, but that comes with, that's a really challenging, difficult thing to do. But I found that if I let go of the idea of how I want it to be done or how I would do it, I give clear direction, enough direction so that they understand what the task is and they understand what the end goal is. And then I can't care how they get there, and I can't micromanage, and I can't tell them that they're doing it wrong as long as they can accomplish the objective. And so that's also really hard, that trust factor when they're in the middle and you're not sure how it's going to turn out. But the key there is really choosing the right people, finding a process to identify the person that can genuinely get things done, work on their own, be autonomous, that they're trustworthy and honest. So that's a challenging thing. I just said it in a sentence, but that's a really hard thing to find.
No, and I think you're right. I mean, you mentioned it before when we were chatting that it's an absolute superpower to be able to articulate exactly what you need with help with and like finding the right people. Yeah. But if people are new to
Mhm.
this, people are new to this whole process, like, yeah, finding the right people, one problem to get over. But the other thing is articulating exactly what you need help with because I also outsource and I find that that is one of the biggest challenges because working with freelancers you can't work with them the way you would with a W2 employee, and like you said, you can't care how they do it, you just have to tell them what you need done. And
Yes.
so help people with this mindset of like letting that go a little bit.
Yeah. So uh, it's a really great question. And to get started, and this I think is the most challenging part, is accepting that we need help and that we can't do it all. And not only that we can't do it all, that we like joyfully let it go, right? You don't want to let it go tugging and pulling and holding on. So joyfully letting things go and asking for the help with the clear direction. Um so the first thing is when people offer, so this is something that I found, and I'm a Midwest girl. I grew up in Minnesota. I don't know if it's a Minnesota thing, but my default instinct, if someone offers me something, I have to reject. I have to say no. And
That's
being
a
in that,
military spouse thing.
maybe it's a human thing. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it is, it's just intuitive. It's ingrained in us that we should not need to accept help. And so being in that position during that deployment, and I don't remember who told me, but someone said the best advice I can give you is to accept help when it's offered. Um, and this is in business or in life, I think, too. And not that people are coming and offering to work for free in business, but people will suggest or say, maybe we do it this way. Maybe I'm doing this task for you, but you know what? Maybe I could also do this. And to be open to those types of conversations without that immediate and it's almost like from your gut, right? No, don't, please. I don't need that. I don't need help. And so crossing that barrier, I don't know that I have advice of how to get there, but if maybe just recognizing it in yourself that it's okay to say yes. It's okay to when people approach you to be open to what it is that they're offering, to be open to their talents. And then the other side is like you mentioned, clearly articulating what it is that needs to be accomplished. And so this, I think, is the challenge is a lot of times when we give direction, we'll say, okay, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, and a long list of things. But if we really look at it critically, maybe 6 of those items are steps along the way to accomplishing the goal. So in that clear articulation of what needs to happen, we need to make sure that what we're telling them is the end goal, not how to get there,
Right.
not how I would do it, not how I would achieve it, but just that end goal.
Yeah, and I also like something you mentioned about how you really put a lot of trust in your gut. And so you had a lot of non-negotiables. And for you, in one case, it was like meeting people in person through the hiring process. And I think that's also very important is like for people who are maybe less self-aware, I think you do need to take that extra step and think about what is a non-negotiable for me? Like, is this, like if you're somebody who is at home alone and you would rather not work with someone of the opposite sex just because it makes you feel less comfortable, then that's a preference for you. And that might be a non-negotiable for you. And it's important that you recognize that, right? Or if meeting someone in person before you hire them is a non-negotiable, that's really important too to articulate and be okay with. And that might mean like letting go of somebody who you think on paper is the perfect candidate, but they're unwilling to meet in person. Well, you got to go with your gut.
It's so true. And that gut instinct, it for me, it really is a physical thing. And that's why that physical interaction and seeing someone in person, I get a physical, my body tells me first, right? Either this is a person that I'm leaning into, that I want to hear more from, that I'm or it's a person that I'm sitting back from, right? I mean, I feel like our bodies really lead us in that before we make that emotional or that intellectual decision. And so to be in tune with that and to listen to that for me is, but you're right, exactly. Everybody's going to have different non-negotiables. Everybody's going to have different things that they're comfortable with and that they're not comfortable with. And maybe you say, I only want to hire virtual people because maybe I'm an introvert and I don't want to see anybody in person. And that's your non-negotiable, right? So I think every person is different, but I think just being in tune with what we know to be right. Sometimes we know we're right and we talk ourselves out of it. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of go with your gut, apply logic and reason, but start with your gut. Yeah.
And before any HR folks glare at me and send me comments about how you cannot specify sex on things like that, I'm talking about a mother's helper. If you're hiring a mother's helper to help you in your home
Come
and
in
you
your
have a
home.
preference, I think it's okay for you to have a preference because whatever. Um, okay, so it was so hard for me to narrow down the questions I wanted to ask you because there were so many questions I wanted to ask you. So I'm excited that you expressed some interest in potentially speaking in our summit about the AI technology. And so I think that'll be really exciting. So look for more there. But I guess because I can't choose the questions, I'm just going to ask you, is there a question that I should have asked? Like, is there one that you were like, why didn't she ask me this? This is so obvious. And is there anything that you want to impart to the spouses out there as inspiration?
I think, a question of, because what we do, being an entrepreneur is it's a challenge in itself. And being a military spouse is such a challenge in itself. And so the, how, the question in my mind that I ask myself on a daily basis, right, is how can you do both of these things really well, right? How can I be a good wife to my deployed husband when he's deployed? He's here now, thank goodness. It's amazing. He comes home every day. How can I be a good mother to my children? How can I run an incredible business? How can I grow my business? How can I take care of my employees? And sort of balancing and managing all of these things. So I just asked and answered the question, but I think that's, you know, you asked anything that I would like to impart. I think to know if you're watching this and you identify with that sentiment of how do I do all of these things great? If we're in this position, it's probably because we have been successful in our lives, right? And we've done things really well throughout the course of our lives. And being okay with the fact that I can't be 100% to everyone all the time. But when I am with my company and focused on my company, I'm 100% there. And when I'm with my kids, I have to be 100% there. And when my husband's home and I can be with him, I have to be 100% there. And I don't achieve that. I maybe make it to, 80%, right? But that's what I'm shooting for. That's what I try for. And I think that's just the daily tug and pull, and days go differently, and your attention and time and focus goes different places on different days. But it's at the end of the day, I think it's so worth it. And it's so much fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so much fun to build something, to create something that is your own. That's for me, I love it. I love it.
It is fun some days. Other days you're like, did someone say this was going to be fun?
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to find
There's
that
definitely
person.
is.
I appreciate your vulnerability. And I don't think you're alone, because I remember seeing one of my other friends that posted on Facebook, how do you professional women do it? I feel like I am always frazzled. I'm barely holding it together. And some days I just can't balance everything. And I'm missing out on events for my kids that because I have a business commitment, and I feel like I'm a failure some days. And then all the comments underneath were like, who told you we were all holding it together? Who told you we were at
Yeah.
100% for? And it was so great to see, not because everybody's suffering, but because everybody was like vulnerable enough to be able to comment to her that like, no, you're not alone. Like, we're all just out here trying to do our best,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be 100% in every single bucket ever,
No,
ever.
you can't. You can't. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so good. And I'm glad that there's that support, and I'm glad that there are people to come out and say it's really hard, and you just do your best and you do what you can do. And yeah,
No,
that's
I
great.
think that's a great sentiment to end on. So I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. And I want to thank our friends over at USAA for making this conversation possible. And I hope that you guys come back to hear other inspirational stories. We'll do another one next week. And I hope you submitted your own. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Sue.